First of all, The Legend of Zelda is not owned by Nintendo. The Legend of Zelda first dawned when Akira Himekawa released The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time manga. They went on and made several other books in the Legend of Zelda series, including The Legend of Zelda, Four Swords. In the audiobook for Legend of Zelda, Four Swords, Part 1, in Chapter 3, Maroon and Rosie, there's a piano tune that sounds very similar to this song that plays during the Stone Argus fight, after Green Link says "Come on, power up time." The song sounds like this. Nintendo consoles may feature the Legend of Zelda games on their consoles, but Nintendo does not have the rights to the games. The rights belong to Capcom, first established on June 11, 1983 by Kenzo Sugimoto. Capcom was known for making iconic games such as Sun and Vulgus. One day they decided to team up with Akira Himekawa to make a game called The Legend of Zelda, and was the first appearance of this song. Nintendo's crime. Nintendo was jealous of the mass success of The Legend of Zelda, as it was one of the most sold Capcom games. Nintendo was able to get The Legend of Zelda on the Nintendo Entertainment System, commonly called the NES, but this was not enough for Nintendo. Nearly everyone knew the iconic Legend of Zelda song. Many had downloaded it onto their boomboxes, using the Capcom Chiptune Center. Nintendo's music was quite unknown and forgotten by the masses. Nintendo made a very similar song to the one used in The Legend of Zelda, and used it for the Starman power-up in Super Mario Bros. In 1985. Nintendo also used and used sprites from The Legend of Zelda that were featured in old trailers for the game, some of which include Goombas, Potaboos, and Puzzle Beetles. Nintendo even made question mark blocks that look similar to an unused exclamation mark block that was used in the first Legend of Zelda game. Due to the fact that Nintendo was able to sell Capcom games on the NES and made popular games due to having Capcom's music and sprites, they were becoming very wealthy and powerful in the game industry. Another thing that led to Nintendo's success was taking out Atari, famous for making an Atari port of the E.T. the Extraterrestrial movie. The technology of Atari was not powerful enough to display the E.T. movie, and the movie score was ruined by the sound effects that Atari could use at the time, thus it was a catastrophe for all E.T. fans. Nintendo was able to become successful because they were able to feature Capcom's DuckTales game. Nolan Bushnell was aggravated because Nintendo stole the looks of Chuck E. Cheese, or Mauser, a villain from the Mario Bros. 2 USA game. Nolan tried to take legal actions on Nintendo, but Nintendo won the case, due to the fact that Mauser and Chuck E. Cheese look quite a bit different. Capcom were moving on to games such as Street Fighter and Bonkers. Nintendo was releasing quite a few Mario Bros. Games, and things were working out well, until Capcom collaborated with Nintendo. They were working on a Legend of Zelda game. Nintendo then struck up an offer with Capcom. Nintendo wanted to use the iconic Legend of Zelda theme, and in return Nintendo said that Capcom could use the iconic Mario Bros. Song. Capcom was unsure of this idea. They thought that it would feel off being used in a Mario Bros. Game, saying as Capcom was unaware Nintendo stole the song for the previous games in the Mario Bros. Series. Capcom rejected Nintendo's request for the song, but Nintendo put the song in the game anyways, right before it was released. Capcom was quite upset at this and wanted to discuss the matter with Nintendo. Nintendo refused to talk to Capcom because at this point we're upset at Capcom and their lack of sharing abilities. Because of us, Nintendo started to target and full-on badmouth Capcom. Nintendo is the company which makes the most innovative products. I am not sure that I would be able to make games like that at Capcom. Shigeru Miyamoto. Capcom was very enraged by this and tried desperately to take legal actions, but Nintendo won all legal battles due to the fact that the song was in the first Super Mario Bros. Game. Capcom now had lost rights to The Legend of Zelda as a whole, including the song. The only way Capcom could work on Legend of Zelda titles was to work with Nintendo, so they collaborated on a few Legend of Zelda titles, including The Legend of Zelda, Four Swords. Due to the fact that Capcom was sued and lost Legend of Zelda rights, they had no way to release games without releasing them to Nintendo consoles. As for Nintendo, they were making game versions of the manga books made by Akira Himekawa. Take that! Omega Gamer 104. You actually made a fool of yourself. Maybe you should do your research before you babble like a brook about things that you don't truly understand.